Greetings, everybody. If you've been following along in my videos, I've been reading a book called The Easter Story. And when we were together last time, we talked about the Garden of Gethsemane and how Jesus was arrested. And I read that story. I'll be reading the story that falls in line next to that. It's also taken from Luke's Gospel. It is chapter 22, verses 54 through 62. The Easter Story book is in public domain, by the way. If you notice today, I'm sitting in front of the cross. And of course, as we get closer and closer to Holy Week and to the Easter season, the cross really takes on more meaning as the days go by. You know, as we're all having to stay at home, and I'm hoping that you are, and staying indoors, it can kind of feel like you're a prisoner in your own house, can't it? And sometimes that's not very much fun at all. I'm hoping that you're finding activities to do, that you're keeping up with your schoolwork, and maybe learning to do some other crafts type things or some projects. Maybe you're listening to music more, and maybe you're reading books. But whatever you're doing, it's just not as much fun as being outside and playing with your friends and being in contact with those that we normally see on a day-to-day basis. My story today is simply called Jesus the Prisoner. So maybe you know a little bit now how this may have felt. The arrest was quickly carried out. The prisoner did not protect himself in any way as they led him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The disciples had vanished, but Peter followed the crowd at a safe distance, right up to Caiaphas' house. Putting his cloak over his head, Peter entered the courtyard and sat down with some of the soldiers, hoping to learn anything he could about Jesus. He sat and listened. He watched and listened. Jesus was on trial. The chief priests wanted to have him killed. They could find no evidence against Jesus. He'd done nothing wrong. Straining to hear any information he could, Peter failed to notice a servant girl looking at him. He jumped when she spoke. "You know Jesus, don't you? You were with him." The soldiers stationed in the courtyard stopped talking as they waited for Peter's answer. I don't know what you're talking about," he said, and stood up to leave the courtyard, pulling his cloak tightly around his face. "He was with Jesus," shouted another girl, pointing her finger at him accusingly. "I don't know anybody by that name," shouted Peter, trying to stifle the feelings of panic and fear growing inside of him. "You must be one of Jesus' friends. You speak with a Galilean accent. You must know him," said someone else in the crowd. Peter turned and faced his accuser and shrieked with anger, "You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know this man, Jesus. I've never known a Jesus. Don't you understand?" He backed off, ready to make his escape. Somewhere, a rooster crowed. A new day had begun. Peter remembered what Jesus had said. He had betrayed his friends. And of course, what Jesus has said is that Peter would betray him 3 times before the rooster crowed in the morning. You know, sometimes it's not always easy to do the right thing. And sometimes it's even harder to stand up for what's right. It's so easy to go with the crowd, even if you know the crowd isn't right. But so often, we take the easy road. So I'm asking today to do what's right, to always stand up for what's right and what's just and what's fair, even even if others don't think that's the case. And never be afraid to claim Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior too. Well, thanks for joining me today as we get closer and closer to Holy Week and into Easter. We'll continue to share more stories about Jesus' crucifixion, death on the cross, and then resurrection from the grave, which is what Easter is really all about. So for now, even though I know it's hard to stay cooped up in your house, please do so. Please stay safe, remain well, so that we can all be joined together again in the near future. Have a good day, kids. See you later.